Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Let's become one byte better today. Today's topic is default dict and counter. Two very handy tools from Python's collection module. Have you ever encountered a key error while using a dictionary? Let me show you an example. Here we need to count the number of each fruit in the fruit basket. So I am defining a dict, and for fruits in fruit basket I need to count that fruit is equal to count of the fruit that is already present there plus 1, right? Finally I will print count. Now let us run this code. This fails because the key does not exist for the first time, right? When we come here, apple does not exist in the count. So there is two common workarounds to fix it. First is that if we know that the key apple does not exist, I go here and write apple is 0, right? I have not seen any apple till now, right? So if we run this, then it will say that okay, I have the count of apple is 0 and I will increase it to 1, but when it will go to banana it will fail, right? Now if we add every unique elements in this count and then run this code, it works perfectly fine. But in real life scenarios, we don't know that how many different fruits are going to appear in the fruit basket. So there is another dynamic way to solve this. Let us say that we have count as empty dict, and here I am going to say that count dot get fruit, and if I don't find the key fruit there, for example I don't found apple in count, then just add apple and set it counts to 0, then increase its value by 1, right? This is what get function says, that that if it has fruit count, then get the fruit count, otherwise define it to 0, right? Okay, now we run it and it runs perfectly fine. It also gives the same result. But doing this is a little complex, or we can say that in both the cases, here and here, we encounter the same problem, that this dict doesn't know what is the default value that must be assigned to this apple, banana and orange. There is also a list as default value. How will count know that which default value it has to assign, right? Here also we are giving hints to count that assign all the values to 0, and here also we are giving the same hint to the count that assign all the fruits to value 0 initially, because it can also be assigned to list, it can also be assigned to a dict, or it can also be assigned to any object present, any custom object also, right? So what is the default value that the count will use? So that's why we are providing the message to the count that use the default value as 0 in a dynamic way and use a default value as 0 in a static way. Let us see how the default dict shines here. I'm just going to put this, I'm just going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this get method also. This was our initial method which fails, right? Now what I'm going to do, I am going to remove this normal dict and say that it is a default default dict with default value as 0, default value of integer, that is 0. But if we run this, it will fail because default dict is not defined. It is defined there in collection, so I need to import it from collections. Now it should run properly. Since count gets to know here that it should initialize all the object with the default value of integer, that is 0. So once it comes to this for loop, it knows that every fruit that is coming to me has to be initialized by the default value of integer, that is 0, right? So that's why we don't get an error here. So here we have used integer. We could also have used here list or set depending on the other use cases that we have, right? We can also use here custom objects initializations also. But one thing is to remember that it should always have some values in it, because this is what the default dict is used for, to initialize the type of the values. If we don't pass any default value here, it will behave in a similar way as that of the conventional dict. Let us try to run it and it should provide the same error. Yeah, key error apple, right? How does this internally work? Providing here something. So default dict implements a special method called missing, which triggers when a key is not found. But don't worry, that's a deep dive for another day. Now let us say that what if we need to count the same value but without using default dict int? So here we have a special function in our collections, that is counter. You can say that counter is a subclass of default dict int. That means counter will always have default dict as int internally. It cannot have any other object type. Why? Because it will just increment the value by 1. That's why it has default value as 0. Now let us say that I have a fruit basket and I don't want to use count, and since I don't want to use count, I will not use this also. What I will be using is, I will be saying counter of fruit baskets, right? Everything is implemented inside it. So counter of fruit basket, I need to print this. So it should print, yes, it has printed 2, 3 and 1, but this time the type is changed from default dict to counter. You can even do fun stuffs like most common elements in it, like dot most common one element. So it should say that apple is the most common element. So run it and it says apple. Now I want to return 2 elements, that is most common, that is most common, top 2 most common elements. Then it will print apple and banana. So we have learned today that default dict avoids key errors with missing keys, and we can choose any value for our default factory, that is int, list, set, or even the custom functions, but we cannot leave it blank, because keeping it blank behaves in the same way as of the conventional dict. Counter is a specialized default dict int with extra powers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, keep practicing.